So I think a lot of real estate investors at some point face this dilemma as they continue to expand. And it is, do I bring on a property manager or do I continue to self-manage? And if I bring on a property manager, should I hire a third-party property manager or should I bring in an in-house PM? Now, I certainly went through this dilemma pretty recently. So what I thought I would do in this video is give you guys background on why I decided to make the transition in my business from self-management to property management. I'll tell you guys whether I integrated in-house versus third-party and how that's helped with both my operations as well as acquisitions in my rental property business. So with that, let's get at it. What's going on, guys? My name's Lior and I'm a real estate investor out of Boston, and I'm excited to make this video talking about my decisions and my thoughts on whether you should hire a property manager. Now, before I get into that, super quickly, guys, if this is your first time on my channel, first of all, welcome. And second of all, make sure you smash that subscribe button for me. I put out tons of new videos every single week talking about everything under the sun on rental property investing. So whether it's project walkthroughs, my thoughts on different tactics and strategies, I literally put it all out. So if that's the kind of content you're looking for, make sure you subscribe to my channel. So for my first 4 to 5 years in the business of buying rental properties, I was self-managing, right? I mean, I basically was the property manager. So any sort of tenant issues, complaints, and anything like that would go directly to me, right? Tenants would call me, text me. I obviously had a lot of tricks that I picked up from places like BiggerPockets and talking to other investors. Like I had a Google phone number. I didn't give them my direct phone line. But still, it is certainly a lot of work, right? I mean, anyone that's self-managed a rental knows it is a lot of work. There's always things that come up, especially in the winter times too. I mean, God, the amount of no heat calls I've gotten is unbelievable. So I kind of went through the trenches of the first couple of years self-managing. And at first it wasn't bad, right? I thought I was an excellent property manager. I was very responsive, got contractors in right away, didn't mess around with any issues. But as time went on and I kept buying more and more rentals, it definitely got a lot tougher to execute and properly, and probably just run the business, right? There's always issues at hand. There's always things that need to be repaired, right? It's not like I'm buying brand new luxury apartments that were built yesterday, right? I mean, a lot of this stuff is value add product that was built in the early 1900s, since I'm in the Boston area. So there's always some sort of maintenance projects going on. And at some point I kind of kept getting to the realization that, me focusing on management and dealing with tenant issues and stuff like that, it took away not only time, but like just drained my energy and drained my focus from focusing on what's really important, right? Which is continue to expand my portfolio, right? Obviously, that's where all the money is made. Of course, you need good management, right? You obviously want to run your buildings well, make sure that everything is running smoothly, you don't have any issues with tenants. But just focusing on that is obviously not going to help you expand. You really need to figure out where do you want to put your attention to and what your priorities are, right? So after a lot of years, my partner and I finally decided to bring on a property manager, right? Because we were getting to that point where it was just taking up too much time and taking away from our time from buying more property, executing on those projects, and continue to expand our business. And before I actually tell you guys about the decision we went through, there was actually 2 real final straws for me that really hammered the point home that kind of just pissed me off, like emotionally, to a huge degree. They happened like a year ago. There was an instant in, I remember on Christmas, literally Christmas Day, it was 20 degrees and snowing in Boston, and I got a call that we had a major water leak in one of our units, and the tenant flipped out, right away called the fire department, police department, it's inspectional services. And it was like, it was obviously not a good thing and we would have taken care of, but I just had all these 3 different branches of people like saying like, dude, what the hell? Why are we getting involved on Christmas on something like this? And it just was so much drama on Christmas Day, the day you're supposed to relax. And then that following July 4th, literally the night of the 4th, so it was July 3rd, I remember I was, at a family gathering with, having a good time, had a couple of drinks already, and I got a call that one of my tenants fell asleep in their tub. She was a third floor tenant. The tub drained, water spilled, and it caved right through all 3 units. And like we had a couple of ceilings collapse. And again, like I got the calls, people flipping out, like just going haywire. I had to go out there, meet contractors, deal with all the logistics, etc. So those 2 events really just emotionally sparked me to say, you know what, it's time to bring on professional help. So that really helped spark our decision. So if you're gonna bring on management, you typically have 2 options, right? You can either hire a third-party vendor, right? A third-party property management company, which there are plenty of choices to choose from in Boston, and I'm sure in your marketplace. Or you could hire an in-house PM. Now, an in-house PM certainly takes a lot more upfront work, right? Because, you know, it's like, it's your person that's gonna run your systems. But I will say, you know, we kind of went back and forth on the advantages and disadvantages. Probably one of the biggest reasons why we didn't end up going through a third-party PM is because what we realized was a lot of those, at least in the Boston area, a lot of the companies that did that, they were run by other real estate investors. And you know, we kind of just figured that we wouldn't necessarily get quite the attention that our units needed. So to really kind of like hammer out logistics, make sure everything ran super smoothly, we decided to vertically integrate and essentially bring in our own PM in-house. Now, the PM has been instrumental in not only helping us with our management operations, but also with a lot of our acquisition and stabilization operations, right? And that's really key for our model, right? Because if you've seen any of my past videos, you know most of the rentals that I buy are typically some sort of distressed property, right? Whether they need complete renovations, maybe they have tenants that are currently paying super low rents and we need to go and stabilize those rents. But typically there's quite a bit of distress going on when we first buy a property. So there's a lot of moving components early on during an acquisition, right? So I'll talk about that, but obviously first let me talk about typical management responsibilities. You know, our PM is now able to handle all of that, right? So if there are any sort of tenant issues, complaints, anything that needs repairs, that all goes directly to the PM, right? She's now able to triage, figure out what the issue is going on with the unit, and then coordinate with the proper contractors or vendors, whoever we need to get out to the property to remediate the issue. She does all of that for us, right? That means I don't get the calls anymore from the tenants. I don't have to go coordinate with vendors and contractors and with the tenants and get them into the unit properly. I don't need to meet them on site now, open the door for them, and I don't have to wait for them while they do the work, right? So it saves me a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of energy. And again, the PM now has gotten very, very good at triaging, and even tells me sometimes, look, I think like this tenant is probably exaggerating it a little bit. She's put in a lot of requests. Maybe we don't need to like do XYZ, maybe we can get away with just ABC, right? So we kind of have now a very fluid operation, I would say, on the management side. And she of course also does more, you know, a little bit more beyond that. She does a lot of our bookkeeping and accounting now too, right? Coordinating rent collections. You know, we have a lot of different moving pieces on the rent collections because we have a lot of subsidized tenants. So we need to keep track of, you know, rent collections from the tenants themselves, from different government agencies, and obviously keep the books properly on all that. So she helps and does a great job tracking all of that, making sure all the dollars are accounted for in different places. She also helps with dealing with a lot of these government agencies, right? Because if you guys own any properties where you rent out to Section 8 tenants, right, you know there's a lot of logistical upkeep that needs to happen throughout the year, between yearly re-inspections that need to be coordinated between the tenants and the inspectors. We need to typically submit some sort of rent increase request forms, which requires forms filled out by us, forms filled out by the tenants, then sent out to the agencies, and then you have to follow up with the agencies, right? So there's just a lot of logistical work like that now is off our plates that we don't really have to think about as hard. And that's given me more time to kind of focus on the bigger picture stuff and be able to buy more property. Now, I also mentioned that having the PM in-house has really helped with our stabilization operations, right? When we first buy a building and need to stabilize it. Because basically what happens is when we buy a building, especially if there's tenants in there and that are almost always paying below market rents, usually the process we take is we have to, get in front of the tenants, set up meetings with them, negotiate the rent increases, file the proper paperwork, get the proper people involved, whether it's Section 8, whether we need to potentially get an attorney involved, right? So there's a lot of moving components during this upfront stabilization process. And now with the PM in place, it's helped us really smooth those out, right? So now I don't need to, first of all, spend time on coordinating with the tenants and setting up meetings and everything. That all of that is kind of done now. I just show up to the meetings. I obviously am still the one that has those tough conversations because I've been through those. I know exactly how to handle those, how to handle potential rent increase conversations or anything else that needs to be addressed. But I at least don't have to do a lot of the logistical work, right? That is just time consuming. And if you ever tried coordinating with your tenants, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know that you'll try to reach out to tenants, they'll ignore you. You have to reach out to them 7 more times before you get in touch with them, and then 7 more times after that to set up a meeting. So that just, that's again, more stuff off of my plates. I can just focus on having those tough conversations or, putting in place whatever needs to happen in order for us to stabilize the building. Also, if we're doing a full renovations, right, one of the cool things that's happened recently is typically when we would do a renovation, we would do the renovation, hire an agent, and then once we're done with the renovation, start marketing the units for rent. Now with this PM in place, we've actually started to pre-market a lot of our under construction units. And just on this most recent project we're doing, we have a 4-unit gut rehab that we're doing. And before we even finished our complete rough, we already had 4 accepted applications to all of the units, which we've never ever had before. So that's obviously de-risked the entire project, is going to allow us to do a cash out refinance faster. So again, our operations for stabilization and construction have all improved in efficiency by having this, having this PM in-house who knows exactly what our business model is, who knows exactly what our business plan is, and can help us properly execute. So hopefully that gives you guys something to think about. Again, if you're thinking about hiring a PM, whether it's a third party or an in-house, I think you need to go through your business and figure out exactly where your loopholes are. And for some of you guys, an in-house might not make sense, right? Maybe if you're buying more stabilized product and you're not doing as much heavy stabilization, maybe a third-party management company would be fine. Maybe you don't deal as much with like government authorities like Section 8. Maybe you're kind of more just bread and butter tenant, market tenants. Again, that could make sense to bring on a third-party property management. But if you kind of have more intense operations, certainly think about some of the advantages that could be had with having an in-house PM like we have. So hopefully that helps, guys. Hopefully that gives you something to think about. If you guys have any questions, make sure to put them in the comments below.